And we need basic decency. We need basic decency. That's what the Epstein Files Transparency Act was all about. By the way, today is the 6-month anniversary of the Epstein Files Transparency Act. We've taken out 24 CEOs, an ambassador.
Donald Trump's marriage is a total sham. That is an undeniable fact. We all know that he and Melania are not desperately in love, holding hands and spending quality time together. They don't even live together. Donald and Melania are all but separated at this point. And honestly, no one believes the facade they try to put on, except when we see them apart all the time. I truly believe that. We are going to get into it all. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button, because it goes a long way in supporting our work. Now, of course, let's talk about what I don't believe. I don't believe a single word Melania has said about Jeffrey Epstein. To me, it's just her trying to protect herself as the legal and political noose tightens around her husband, a man she clearly doesn't care about. And that is exactly what we're learning in a new FBI leak that connects Melania mysteriously snubs Trump and exposes the real reason she abandoned her husband. Noticeably absent. We are going to dive into all of this today, as he jetted off. But I want to start with the latest example of Melania abandoning Donald Trump, visit to China, which raised quite a few eyebrows. Her decision not to go with him to China. That is where I want to begin, and before we get into so much more Epstein-related news. Melania Trump's office confirmed her absence in an email to the South China Morning Post hours before takeoff, without even attempting to offer an explanation. First Lady Melania Trump is not traveling this time, her spokesperson said. The move comes amid speculation about the First Lady increasingly breaking with her husband, as she seems to be trying to chart her own course. Trump and his White House aides were reportedly blindsided last month when she called a surprise press conference to read a statement declaring she had no ties to the late sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein. The move appeared to only revive the sex scandal, and Trump himself had been eager, as we know, to put it to rest. Melania showed up for all 6 of Trump's formal outgoing state visits of his first term, including his November 2017 trip to China. But her 100% attendance rate back then has now fallen to less than 20% just over a year into Trump's second term. She skipped a meeting in May on a trip that the White House itself titled "Donald Trump Participates in a Saudi State Visit" on its own events page. She also skipped another event the Qatari Foreign Ministry described as such, and she skipped the UAE the day after that on a trip described by PBS as the president's third state visit in 3 days. So, this is more than just a little bit odd, right? Melania Trump just decided to skip town right as Donald Trump heads off on his trip to China. She's been on these trips before. She's made the journey. But not this time. And we're only about a month out from Melania standing in front of cameras and flat out saying, "I don't know Epstein. Ghislaine didn't know me. Don't ask me about me and my husband at those parties." And here we are, just a couple of weeks removed from that bizarre denial, and the story is still lingering. Especially now that Donald Trump just won a victory against the man who was actively trying to force the release of the Epstein files, Thomas Massie. Massie said something last night that I think is incredibly important when you put it in the context of this Melania story.
And we need basic decency. We need basic decency. That's what the Epstein Files Transparency Act was all about. By the way, today is the 6-month anniversary of the Epstein Files Transparency Act. We've taken out 24 CEOs, an ambassador, a prince, a prime minister, a minister of culture. And that was just 6 months. I got 7 months left in Congress.
In just 6 months, think about everything that has unfolded. Kings, queens, foreign heads of state, CEOs, and titans of industry, they've all been toppled in only half a year. But what about a president? What about a first lady? I really like the sound of that. I like the sound of them finally paying for their Epstein-related crimes and being forced to confront the cold, hard truth about their friendship and their deep connections to Jeffrey Epstein. This is the exact thing Melania Trump tried
Epstein's
to bury with that
recruiter's
pathetic
FBI
little press
note
conference,
contradicts
where she
Melania's
claimed
story
she
and may
Ghislaine
have
Maxwell
triggered her
were never
panic.
friends.
Melania
We all
Trump's
know that was
hastily
a
called
blatant
press
lie,
briefing
but
last
she didn't
month to
just lie.
emphatically
She
deny
went as
any
far as to
relationship
threaten
with the
anyone
sex
who dared to
trafficker
speak
Jeffrey
the truth.
Epstein,
Well,
elicited
good
a
luck
flurry
with
of
that,
speculation
Melania.
about who
Let's
might
see
be
how
holding
effective
information
those
that the
threats are
First Lady
against the
doesn't want to
FBI
come out.
and these leaked
A
documents
statement
that are now
provided to
coming
the
to light.
FBI and federal prosecutors by a former model who worked for Epstein as a recruiter for his trafficking enterprise appears to shed some light on what Melania is trying to keep under wraps. The entry in the Epstein files mentioning Melania and Donald by name focuses on a man at the center of the modeling industry that brought the Trumps together with Epstein in the late 90s and early 2000s. Paulo Zampoli, who unlike Melania was with Donald Trump on his trip to China, is the modeling agent who reportedly arranged a visa for then Melania, of course not Melania Trump yet, but just Melania, to come work in the United States. He now serves as a special envoy for the president for global partnerships under the auspices of the US State Department. The seamless connection between the models represented by Zampoli, many of them recruited from abroad to work in the US on visas, and the women who became Epstein's victims and enablers is glaringly illustrated by Adriana Musinska, a Polish-born model who worked for them both. Musinska described meeting Epstein through Zampoli in a 2019 interview with the FBI and federal prosecutors in West Palm Beach, Florida, less than a week after Epstein's July 2019 arrest on charges of sex trafficking minors. A typed report of Musinska's July 2019 interview in West Palm Beach with two unnamed federal prosecutors, an unnamed FBI agent compiled in an official FBI document and released in the Epstein files indicates that Musinska was interviewed as part of a proffer agreement, which typically provides immunity or leniency to an individual with information about a crime in exchange for complete truthfulness on this. That FBI report states that an individual whose name is redacted put Musinska in contact with an agent named Paulo Zampoli, who worked with ID models, and that it was organized for Musinska to go to New York to model. The report states that Musinska lived in a model's apartment because she did not have the funds to pay for her own. The apartment accommodated 10 people and was on the same street as the model agency on Varick Street. It states that Musinska had an affair with the agent and that Zampoli was trying to buy elite models with Epstein. The next sentence in the typed FBI report of Musinska's interview, based on her proffer agreement, states, Epstein introduced Melania Trump to Donald Trump. So, the speculation based on this leaked reporting and sworn testimony from the FBI is that Melania Trump was hitting the panic button. She watched as her husband decided the only way to bury the Epstein files was to drag the country into a war, and she realized she needed to create some distance and fast. Her game plan was to dump all the blame on Donald, claim she had zero connection to Epstein, and pray to God that everyone would stop asking her questions. That was the plan, but it has failed miserably. If anything, it's only shone a brighter spotlight on her own deep ties to Jeffrey Epstein, not to mention Donald's. She has fervently denied it, but she's gone beyond just denials. She's actively threatening anyone who dares to speak the truth. Anyone who points out that Melania's connections to Epstein are glaring and deserve a full investigation. Think about it. Hillary Clinton had to testify under oath in her capacity as First Lady because of her husband's connections. Using that exact same logic, Melania should be sitting for a deposition right now. But she won't, because this Justice Department has been weaponized to protect Donald Trump. They are too busy building a slush fund for January 6th criminals to care about holding predators and their accomplices accountable. This new reporting shows that Melania, terrified of this information surfacing, decided to distance herself from the China trip and pin everything Epstein related on her husband. But look at the details. The modeling agent who supposedly introduced them, Paulo Zampoli, is actually in China with Trump right now. Isn't that convenient? This guy was also a close friend of Epstein. Zampoli is swearing up and down that Trump and Melania met at his party and that Epstein had nothing to do with it. Yet, here he is with a cozy position in the administration, traveling to China, while Melania stays behind. The truth is starting to leak out. Melania didn't meet Donald through Zampoli. She met him through Epstein. It's no wonder she's backing out of the marriage and hiding from the public eye. She only cares about her own survival. It truly is a match made in hell. Two incredibly selfish people who are perfectly happy to watch others suffer and who surround themselves with people like Trump's personal lawyer, who had some very revealing things to say about Ghislaine Maxwell and Epstein?
You had an opportunity to go down and talk to Ghislaine Maxwell. And then a few days later, she was transferred from a high security prison to a very comfortable.
I mean, that's
very
true.
comfortable.
It's just not true. She was not in a high security prison. She was transferred from a low security prison to a low security prison. I mean, you're looking at me like that's verifiable.
Well, I don't think at the other prison she had her own room. She had access to a private shower. She could have pet therapy. And
I don't know if any of that is true. I'm not disagreeing with you.
it is true, and you should know it, Mr. Attorney.
I should know that?
You should know.
Whether an inmate has access to her own shower?
No. This is a person of extra special interest to the President of the United States. He's known her. Why did he send you down to talk to her?
He didn't send me. I went. What do you mean? You think President Trump called and asked me to go interview a witness in federal prison? Honestly?
Yes, I do, frankly.
Well,
because you know why?
He didn't.
Because the deal was in. He needed somebody he could rely. He needed somebody he could rely upon to talk to her and say, what would she say if she was asked about Jeffrey Epstein? And you were the perfect choice. And you went down there, and suddenly, shazam! She's out of what is a more confining situation into a much more relaxed federal prison.
Every word that I asked her is recorded and available to you to review. If there's criticisms of the question that I asked her, go ahead and make them. But the president did not have anything to do with my choice to go interview Ms. Maxwell. If I wouldn't have went and a career would have went, you would have said, why didn't you go yourself? Just like you expect me to know whether she has access to her own shower.
You
so
should.
I did go.
Everyone in the United States who reads the newspapers know that. I guess you don't, read things like that. This whole hearing, I think, is exposing something, which is, to me, very frightening. You're a very gifted lawyer. But from my perspective, you have very little faith to the Constitution and the people of America, and you're the president's consigliere.
Your perspective is completely wrong, Senator,
Well,
respectfully.
I think the facts will prove me right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Todd Blanche is a terrible liar and an even worse bullshitter. This whole "I don't know, why would I know" act really doesn't hold up when you're simultaneously trying to claim that the broader Epstein investigation was so thorough that we can just move on. Look, only one of two scenarios can be true. Either you genuinely have no clue what's going on, in which case, why are you even speaking? Or you've examined those files so deeply that you know exactly what's being hidden and you're actively suppressing it. We all know the first scenario isn't true, and the second one is exactly what we're dealing with. We absolutely need the rest of those 3 million Epstein files. Todd, you aren't fooling anyone. And Melania, neither are you. We are going to continue to call you both out and expose the lies on this show every single day. If you want to support this kind of fearless reporting, as always, please hit that subscribe button and leave a like on this video. If you've stuck around until the very end, drop a blue heart in the comments so I know who's in this fight with us. Keep on fighting, y'all. Don't let them silence you. And until next time, I'm Liam Prescott, and I'll see you in the next one.